It's okay? Good. Okay, welcome again. Our next presenters are Angeliki Agelianu and Eliana Hadzeki, known together as Iosfs. Okay. They are storytellers, musicians, and passionate guardians of the rich tradition of Greek folk tales. Through storytelling, traditional songs, and live music performed on traditional instruments. They bring oral tradition to life for audience of all ages. For several years, they have been performing at festivals, schools, cultural events, and educational workshops throughout Greece, creating experiences where music, storytelling, and community come together in a truly engaging way. They also lead workshops on the art of folk storytelling, inviting participants to discover the imagination, rhythm, and human connection that lie within every story. And I'm very sorry for that, but I want to try that. Θα ήθελα να σας παρουσιάσω δύο υπερόες φίλες μου. Δύο ζέστους και ξεχωριστούς ανθρώπους που κάνουν του δόηλα τους μη πολύ αγάπη, ευαισθησία και αφοσίωση. Please welcome Angeliki Agelianu and Eliana Hadzeki.
Check the security. The security. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So, hello, good morning, everyone.
Hello to everyone.
This is Eliana,
And this is Angeliki.
and yes, and we are, let's have a seat. And we are
Susurades,
a storytelling duo. What we do for a living is that we search and try to tell and retell stories from the oral traditions of the world. And
This is what we've come to do here together with you. We'll tell you stories through space and time. The hero's journey from rhapsodies and folk tales to storytelling in art and education.
so let us begin. Sometimes words too grow roots. So says one of our favorite folk tales. Words grow roots that they sink, and they sink their roots deep into the earth. They spread them across the land for miles and raise trunks and branch out and blossom and bear fruit. These are the words of oral tradition. Words whose roots are buried deep within the inner realm, the collective soul, the collective unconscious. Roots that stretch across the outer world, across places extending from where we stand and we speak today to lands miles away, to the ends of the earth. Words with trunks, with branches, with flowers and fruits that ripen over time, forming the great tree of folk oral tradition. A tree whose fruits sometimes speak in the voice of folk tales and myths, sometimes sing like traditional songs do, sometimes whisper like lullabies do, sometimes play in the rhythm of rhyming games, sometimes mix reality with fiction in the form of legends.
And one of the common roots of humankind is our impulse to create and tell stories. Stories that draw from the shared core of human experience, from common archetypes, from the common substance of dreams. Even peoples who have never come into contact with one another give birth to remarkably similar stories. A storyteller in Greece once told the story of Orpheus, who descended into the underworld in search of Evrydiki, Eurydice, and lost her forever when he turned his gaze backward. Many miles away, another storyteller in Japan tells almost the same story, although the protagonists are not Orpheus and Eurydice, but Izanagi and Izanami. The tale of Cinderella, which appears in hundreds of variants throughout the Greek-speaking tradition, is found in almost every storytelling tradition in the world. Each people dresses the story in its own imagery and symbols. In Greek variants, Cinderella loses her golden slipper or golden shoe, which often sticks to the church steps smeared with honey by the princess, by the king. The Egyptian Cinderella loses her golden sandal, while in France she loses her glass, or in some versions, fur-lined shoe. Folk tales are made from the psychic material of humanity itself. Every story is, in essence, the story of an individual's journey through life, the journey toward maturity and autonomy. It is the journey of the hero or the heroine.
And of course, and we mentioned it earlier, I think, in Mr. Raptis' speech, an indicative example of such a story is the Odyssey, the epic that is traditionally attributed to Homer in the 8th century BCE. Yet we know that it was not the creation of a single individual, it was a synthesis of even older stories that had long been performed orally, not in written form, by rhapsodists in multiple variations. For at least 2 centuries before they were written down, quite possibly for much longer than that, the Homeric epics traveled from mouth to mouth without ever being committed to paper. And the Homeric epics had grown deep roots, indeed. And like roots, they knew no borders, neither in time nor in space. They spread from one literary genre to another, from language to language, from country to country, from culture to culture, bearing fruit wherever there were mouths willing to tell them and hearts willing to listen to them. So we see that Homer's Odysseus of Argos, he's struggling against the one-eyed Cyclops, Polyphemus, and this same hero, in the lips of a Palestinian storyteller, becomes a Bedouin of the desert, who battles the one-eyed Ghul, the man-eating monster that imprisons him in its cave. And the hero blinds the monster and later escapes, of course, with the same motive that Odysseus managed to escape, hidden beneath its ship, just as in the Homeric episode. And we see the exact same episode being repeated in examples of oral tradition of other peoples, and in particular in a Turkish folk tale that we're gonna see later. But let us not travel too far. In our own lands, a grandmother in Crete, beside the Christmas trees and the fire burning in the hearth, gathers her grandchildren to tell them the story of a miller who managed to outwit a Kalikantzaros. Kalikantzaros is the Greek Christmas elf. He managed to outwit the Kalikantzaros in which way? Just before the miller stroked the Kalikantzaros on the head, he introduced himself to the Kalikantzaros as myself. My name is myself. So he managed to conceal his actual name. So when the Kalikantzaros finally wakes up after being hit on the head, he starts asking his brothers for help, crying, "I've been struck by myself," which of course cannot but remind us of the Cyclops calling for aid by crying, "Nobody has blinded me." These rooted words of oral tradition travel from place to place, from genre to genre, but also from age to age. Thus, Odysseus, struggling against the waves sent by Poseidon, as he longs to return home, driven by the pain of homecoming and the yearning of nostalgia, finds a predecessor in the shipwrecked sailor the hero of an Egyptian papyrus dating to around 2000 BCE. This hero is also far from his homeland. He is cast ashore on a distant island where he receives hospitality from the inhabitants, recounts his story to them, and after some time he says goodbye, he bids them farewell, confident that he will soon return home safely and surely. Of course, reading this ancient papyrus, one cannot help but draw a parallel with the final stage of Odysseus' journey on the island of the Phaeacians, where the hospitable king Alcinous welcomes him warmly and sends him on his way back home, laden with gifts, honoring him as a sacred guest.
Human beings, as storytellers, possess a remarkable ability to create narratives through which they organize both their inner and outer worlds. Through the stories of the ancient rhapsodists and folk storytellers, we can observe how this innate human tendency has generated a narrative mechanism that remains available to us today. We may draw upon it to create stories of our own, whether works of fiction, personal narratives, or accounts of collective experience. Despite the thousands of variations that appears across different places and eras, the journey of the hero or heroine generally follows a fairly recognizable pattern. Vladimir Prop and Joseph Campbell analyzed this narrative trajectory, identifying and classifying its various stages and milestones in an effort to decode the underlying structure that guides the hero's journey. You can see here in that first sketch that Joseph Campbell presents, we can see the hero on the top. It's the start with the call to adventure, to start the journey. In many cases, not all of them, but the hero or the heroine in the beginning doesn't want to go to the adventure. He declines it, but then because he's afraid, probably. But then he meets a mentor. A mentor in many folk tales, in the folk tradition, is an old human, an old man or an old woman that gives guidance to the hero, the heroine, and help him cross the threshold from the normal world to the unknown. And then starts the actual journey, with the trials and failures, with finding the helpers who give the heroine and the hero some magic objects or a bit of their hair to burn the hero when he comes in need, and they will come and rescue him. Of course, the helpers are not only human beings, they're animals, they're birds, whatever living creature. And then, as we go on to the journey, of course, the hero grows strength, and sometimes he gets to the underworld, to the world of the dead, and gets rebirthed from there. We remember Odysseus. He went to the world of Hades, and he met with the dead. And then he came up again to the worlds of the living, a newborn, very strong from this experience. And then, of course, it's the returning back home, where he meets the final, the final enemy. But then now the hero is very, very strong, and he beats, and in the end, of course, he lives happily ever after, as we all know. And of course, this sketch cannot cover the full complexity of the oral literature, we must say that, of the world. But in oral literature, which includes both folk tales and epic poetry, these narrative functions appear with particular clarity. For this reason, oral tradition lends itself especially well to educational applications. We can see in the functions of the folk tale proposed by Vladimir Prop, 31 functions Vladimir Prop proposes, but now we meet 6 of them. It's the hero, of course we know the hero, heroine, our protagonist, the interdiction and violation. It's when in the beginning, mostly in the beginning of the story, one is told to the hero not to do something. You must not open the last door of my palace. Of course, what would you do? Would you open it? Yes, of course, of course. Because with no violation, there is no story. So he opens it, and now that starts the trouble and the journey. Huh? Then it's the villain and the false hero. The villain is the enemy, the bad guy of the story. The false hero is another character that wants to take the place of the protagonist, of the hero, in the end of the story, most of the times. That when we are confident that we're reaching to the end and everything's going to be all right, tack, there comes a character and there's a plot twist. This gives the narrative expand, and so we have that suspense to see what's going to happen. And then it's the struggle, of course. Life is a struggle. Folk tales know that very much, very well. And the magical agent. It's some magic objects that are given to the hero from the helpers. And the solution in the end, the happily ever after.
So, using these 6 structural bones, one can construct a story with ease, with remarkable ease. This is precisely what we did with the teenage students who participated in our creative writing workshop during the Young Homeride Festival in the island of Chios around 1 year ago, in September 2025. So in this workshop, during the first part, the students listened to 3 stories in that particular place. The building was the Mastica Museum in Chios, and in that particular room, a very big painting of Prometheus had been exhibited. So we told them 3 stories. One was the Odyssey, of course, in a condensed 15-minute form, if you can deliver the Odyssey in 15 minutes. We told them the story of Prometheus, so we had one epic, one myth, and we also told them one Greek folk tale. And we then identified the narrative functions within each one of these stories. And we discussed the differences, but most importantly, we discussed what are the common narrative elements. Although they originated, the 3 stories originated in different periods, in different contexts, they all rested upon the same fundamental narrative framework. So we thought, why not give it a try together? Because I guess we all know the story of the Odyssey, right? Kind of. And if we don't, then Nolan's Odyssey will be on the cinemas soon. So, who is the hero in Odyssey?
Odysseus.
It is.
The interdiction and violation. There are many interdictions and violations.
Maybe
in
if
Odyssey.
we want to make it even, what is the hubris that Odysseus does? And this is actually where his trouble starts, where the whole trouble of the homecoming starts happening.
The first faults.
Because up until then, it was quite okay. Excuse me?
Yes, the
Cyclops.
Cyclops.
Of Poseidon's son. He was not just one common Cyclops. He was the son of God Poseidon. So it's Poseidon who then takes revenge by not letting Odysseus go back. But of course, the problem would not have started if Odysseus had not told his name after he blinded Polyphemus. And who is the villain, the enemy, let's say, and the false hero? Of course, there are many obstacles in the way. The epic is some 1,000 verses long.
Many stories in one story. So
But who is the basic enemy that he has to...
who is the father of
face?
Polyphemus? Poseidon, the god.
Poseidon is the basic
Wants revenge.
obstacle. Center. And who is the false hero? Who tries to take his position? The?
Ah, yes, the minister.
The suitors, exactly.
The suitors, yes.
All of them. And of course, the struggle, as we said, it's a 1,000 verses long epic. The struggles are 1,000 verses long. The struggles are many. The Laestrygonians, Circe, difficult. Calypso, and all this. And who is the magical agent, the main magical agent? Because there are also many magic helpers, but who is the magical agent that throughout the whole story is by his side, by Odysseus' side?
Athena. Athena.
Athena.
Yes.
Athena and Hermes, and of course Circe, Calypso, Tiresias, who helps him.
Patience.
And the Phaeacians at the final stage.
Yeah.
And the solution is getting home, exactly.
Getting home.
Getting back to Ithaca.
Yes.
So,
The third part of the workshop was the creative phase. The students were invited to create stories of their own through playful process. Each group imagined one element corresponding to each of the 6 narrative functions and wrote these elements on separate slips of paper. The papers were in different colors to separate the elements. Then all the slips from every group were then collected together, mixed, and each group randomly drew 6 slips corresponding to the 6 narrative functions. Using these randomly assigned elements, the groups were asked to create a complete story within a very short period of time. This was very, very funny because, of course, what came to their hands was abstract, didn't have any way to connect.
Random ideas.
Yeah, and they were trying to find ways with humor and magical events to make a story out of it. Yeah? Very, very interesting to see them try and argue and...
Which resembles a lot, sorry for the interruption, resembles a lot the way stories, folk stories, had been created throughout time. People collected motifs, collected episodes, and put them in one continuous narrative.
Okay, and when they finally had a story, they presented it, each group shared its story with the rest of the workshop by reading it aloud to the other groups.
So in this way, the students became storytellers within just the space of a few hours. Some, very few of them, even composed their stories in rhyming verses. Yes, imitating or inspired by the Homeric meter. At the same time, they experienced firsthand the process, as we said before, of weaving seemingly unrelated pieces of information into a coherent narrative. They were discovering solutions, and these solutions really often, sometimes they approached the realms of magical realism. We were really impressed by the fact that within just a few minutes they could do that. In essence, they were doing exactly what the rhapsodists and the folk storytellers once did. They were drawing inspiration from scattered words with wings, epe apteroenda, that reached their ears through sailors arriving from distant lands, through travelers, through merchants crossing borders, and the stories heard between waking and sleeping from their grandmothers and neighbors. One particularly significant outcome of this workshop was that many students chose to incorporate elements from their own lived experience into their stories. They transformed, for example, there were many cases where the hero or the enemy was their teacher.
Their teachers. Yes.
And they used funny aspects of their interaction within the story. So they created narratives that were really humorous, they were filled with unexpected twists, with satire, and above all, a clear structure. A beginning, a middle, and a happy ending. So storytelling indeed transforms information into meaning, into stories.
It becomes evident then that the oral literature peoples of the world can acquire powerful educational dimensions. It provides students with a framework upon which they can stand as they attempt to tame the chaos of information that surrounds them daily. It enables them to organize that information into meaningful narratives, and in doing so, to imagine the possibility of a positive resolution. A striking, a very touching example of how oral tradition can provide a language through which contemporary and controversial issues may be expressed is found in the image before us. It is a drawing created by a student who participated in the festival mentioned earlier. The drawing, as you can see, depicts Odysseus standing before two burning trains. He holds a placard bearing the inscription, 28 of February 2023, 23 and 18 at night. 57 victims. Above him appears a speech bubble that reads, "I do not forget." The image is a clear reference to the Tempe railway crime, the train crash that shocked Greece more than 3 years ago, for which justice has not yet come and left a profound collective wound, a trauma that remains unresolved in the public consciousness. This student placed the most recognizable hero of Greek mythology, the hero who embodies the longing for return and the hope for a successful homecoming, at the center of a contemporary and still unfolding story, one that continues to seek justice and collective vindication.
We can therefore see how stories created thousands of years ago and thousands of miles away continue to exert a powerful influence upon the present. They help us interpret contemporary reality, they endow it with meaning. Certain themes possess a timeless quality that is continually renewed in each historical moment. The longing of the immigrant or the exiled to return home, the anxiety of whether the loved ones will welcome them, will recognize them, remains fundamentally the same from the 10th century BCE to our own time, and in the centuries to come, probably. This enduring quality is precisely what continues to inspire us in our own journey as Susurrades through the world of storytelling. Our performances often become meeting points where elements from the oral traditions of different peoples and different regions of the world come together, alongside elements drawn from diverse genres of oral tradition, from Homeric epics and folk tales to lullabies and folk songs. In particular, the Odyssey had been the major source of inspiration for our performance in Homer's footsteps, from the rhapsodist to the storyteller. And the picture you can see here was taken from the very first performance of this project, of this storytelling project. And this performance was held in Daskalopetra in the island of Chios, within this festival that we mentioned earlier, the Young Homeridi. So Daskalopetra, what does this word mean? It means the master's rock. This rock that you can see behind us was the Daskalopetra. And who was the master? According to the legend, it was Homer himself. It was the place where Homer used to recite his epics, according to the legend. So really in this case, we could see how storytelling really becomes the meeting point between different genres, different oral traditions, but also the meeting point in terms of space, how we can actually revive and relive how the space was used from centuries ago, and bring it to the present.
And to the future.
And to the future.
Because there were students.
Exactly. Our audience was primarily students. Many of them told us that, we discovered that there is this, such a profession as a storyteller. Maybe this is the profession I want to do. I want to follow.
Yes.
So,
While developing upon this performance, we identified striking common motifs between Homer's Odyssey and stories from both Greek and international traditions. One particularly fascinating discovery was the resemblance between the cave of the nymphs described by Homer upon Odysseus' return to Ithaca and the lands of the fairies of modern Greek folk tradition. The imagery is remarkably similar. The flowing, life-giving waters, the looms, the woven fabrics of the fairies and the nymphs all echo one another across centuries. Likewise, as we mentioned earlier, the motif of the one-eyed monster reappears in a Palestinian folk tale. And here you can see the illustration from a Turkish fairy tale called The Ordeals of the White-Bearded Young Man, and where it's also a one-eyed giant, and the hero, that's not of course Odysseus, it's a hero of the fairy tale, escapes underneath the ship. It's exactly the same image as Homer's. Elsewhere, we encountered a witch who enchanted a traveler far from home in a Greek folk tale, even though her name is not Circe.
Similarly, because we've left music aside for a long time, so in traditional Greek folk songs, we encounter motifs that strongly evoke the Homeric tradition. In a song recounting the return of the expatriate or the long-absent husband, η επιστροφή του ξενιτεμένου in Greek, the returning man finds his wife weaving at a golden loom. When he finally reveals his identity, of course, does she accept it? No, she tests him, just as Penelope does. And in the Homeric Odyssey, the final proof of recognition is, does anyone remember what is the very final proof of recognition?
The bed.
The bed, exactly.
Why?
Which was made out of? Of the olive tree.
Exactly.
There was an olive tree in their bedroom, upon which Odysseus himself had made the bed. Over the centuries, the rhapsodist became the folk poet. Homeric meter transformed into the 15-syllable iambic verse of the Greek folk poetry, and the olive tree of the Homer's episode, as the final proof of recognition, became a mole upon the woman's back, a secret that was only known to the two lovers and is the final, the ultimate proof for the recognition of the long-missing husband. And now we need the help of the Greek-speaking audience. Can you find out any common point between the two ultimate proofs, between the two stories?
The olive tree and the mole.
The olive tree and the mole. What is the Greek word for the olive tree? Elia. What is the Greek word for the mole?
Elia.
Elia.
It's the same word.
It's incredible then. It's really unbelievable and difficult to conceive. Even now that I'm talking about, I've talked about it for thousands of times and I still get goosebumps out of this information. How the symbol managed to travel through time, secretly encoded within a single word. And
So now,
maybe it would be interesting to recite in
Yes.
English these texts. And we're not gonna tell you what the first text is, whether it's the folk song or Odyssey. We're gonna let you guess after it finishes. But it's interesting to notice the imagery of the whole thing.
a golden loom and ivory comb, and there an angel-bodied maiden sits and weaves. A traveling merchant came riding on a black horse. Good day to you, fair maiden.
Welcome, stranger.
Maiden, why don't you marry and take a worthy husband?
Better your black horse should perish than the words you have spoken. My husband has been in foreign lands these 12 long years, yet 3 more years I'll wait for him, and 3 more I'll keep watch.
Maiden, your husband is dead. Maiden, your husband is gone. These hands held him, these hands buried him. I shared with him bread and candle for his soul, and he bade me give you this message.
You held him, you buried him, may God reward you. You offered him bread and candle, then I thank you for it.
I also lent him a kiss and told me to claim it from you.
If you lent him a kiss, then go and ask it back from him.
Maiden, I am your husband. I am your beloved.
My husband was a young man, you are an old man.
Exile has aged me, those desolate foreign lands.
If you truly are my husband, if you truly are my beloved, tell me signs of my courtyard, and only then will I open the door.
By your doorway stands an apple tree, and in your yard a vine. It bears rich clusters of grapes and fragrant wine.
Ah, the whole neighborhood knows that. The whole world knows it. Tell me signs within the house, and then I shall believe.
In the middle of your chamber burns a golden oil lamp. Its light shines upon you as you undress and as you braid your hair.
You must have been a friend who once came by. You saw these things, so now you speak of them. Tell me marks upon my body, the tokens of our love, the signs that only you and I know.
You have a mole upon your back, another beneath your arm, and between your breasts, your husband's cherished talisman.
Stranger no more, you are my husband, you are my beloved. Come running, all you bridesmaids, here he is, my beloved has returned. So what was that?
What was that?
Of course,
was it
now-
Homer's? Was it what?
It was the,
The
song,
folk
the folk
song, yes. But it
And
starts with a golden loom, eh? It's
It starts with
Penelope, it's the same. It's the same
imagery,
story.
yeah? Not in all variants of this song, but as we were searching to create this performance, we found out that there was a variant that set the setting of the whole interaction in front of the golden loom. And Odyssey, of course, in Odyssey, after Penelope has tested him again and again, finally Odysseus is designated and says,
My dear, heaven has endowed you with such a heart more unyielding than woman ever yet had. No other woman could bear to keep away from her husband when he had come back to her after 20 years of absence and after having gone through so much. But come, nurse, get a bed ready for me. I will sleep alone, for this woman has a heart as hard as iron.
My dear, I have no wish to set myself up nor to depreciate you, but I'm not struck by your appearance, for I very well remember what kind of a man you were when you set sail from Ithaca. Nevertheless, Euryclea, take his bed outside the bedchamber that he himself built.
Wife, I am much displeased with what you've just said. Who has been taking my bed from the place in which I left it? He must have found it a hard task, no matter how skilled a workman he was, unless some god came and helped him to shift it. There is no man living, however strong and in his prime, who could move it from its place, for I made it with my very own hands. There was a young olive tree growing within the house, in full vigor and about as thick as a bearing post. I built my room around this with strong walls of stone and a roof to cover them, and I made the doors strong and well fitted. Then I cut off the top boughs of the olive tree and left the stump standing. This I dressed roughly from the root upwards and then worked with carpenter's tools well and skillfully, making it into a bed prop. So you see, I know all about it, and I desire to learn whether it is still there or whether any of one has been removing it by cutting down the olive tree at its roots.
And when she heard the sure proof Ulysses now gave her, she fairly broke down. She flew weeping to his side, flung her arms about his neck, and kissed him. So, now you know the stories. And do you want to listen to how the story was sung rather than told? Let's see what the non-Greek speaking audience will, now that you know the plot. Is the sound okay? Μαλάματένιος αργαλιός και ελεφαντένιο χτένι και ένα κορμί αγγελικό κάθεται και υφαίνει με ξύνα δυο πατήματα 42 καρούλια κι ο βρόντος κι ο ήχος ο πολύς απ' τα ψηλά τραγούδια πραγματευτής επέρασε στο μαύρο καβαλάρης κοντοκρατεί το μαύρο του και την χαιρετάει για και χαρά σου λιέρη καλώς τον ξένο πούρτεν κορίμια δεν παντρεύεσαι να πάρεις παλικάρι. Κάλλιο να σκάσει ο μαύρος σου παρά το λόγο που πες. Έχω άντρα στην ξενιτιά και λείπει 10 χρόνους. Και ακόμα 3 στον καρτερό και 3 στον απαντέχω. Και άμα δερθεί και αδέ φανεί, καλόγρια θε να γίνω.
Κόρη μου, άντρας σου εχάθηκε. Κόρη μου, άντρας σου πάει. Τα χέρια μου τον κράτησαν, τα χέρια μου τον θάψαν. Ψωμί κερί τον μοίρασα κι είπε να με πληρώσεις.
Τον κράτησες, τον έθαψες. Θεός σου το πληρώσει, ψωμί κερί τον μοίρανες, διπλά εγώ στα πληρώνω.
Τον δάνεισα και ένα φιλί κι είπε να με το δώσεις.
Φιλί κι αν τον εδάνησες, άμε και γύρευέ το.
Κόρη μου, εγώ είμαι ο άντρας σου. Εγώ είμαι ο καλός σου.
Βρε, ο άντρας μου ήταν νιούτσικος, εσύ είσαι γεροντούλης.
Με γέρασε η ξενιτιά, τα έρημα τα ξένα.
Αν είσαι ξένε ο άντρας μου και αν είσαι και ο καλός μου, πες μου σημάδια της αυλής και τότε να πιστέψω.
Έχεις
Μιλιά.
μιλιά στην πόρτα σου και κλίμα στην αυλή σου. Καμισταφύλι ροζακί και το κρασί μοσχάτο.
Αυτά τα ξέρει η γειτονιά, τα ξέρει ο κόσμος όλος. Πες μου σημάδια του σπιτιού και τότε να πιστέψω.
Ανάμεσα στην κάμαρη, χρυσό καντήλι ανάφτης. Σου φέγγει όταν λούγεσαι και πλέκεις τα μαλλιά σου.
Φίλος ήσουν, πέρασες, τα είδες και τα λέγεις.
Καημένη πιο πολύ από όλες τις γυναίκες. Σκληρή καρδιά σου έβαλαν οι ουράνιοι στα στήθια. Καμιά με τόση υπομονή δεν θα στεκότανε άλλη έτσι μακριά από τον άντρα της που πίκρες αν περάσει της έρθει στην πατρίδα του τον 20 πια χρόνο. Μόνο έλα Βάγια, στρώσε μου κρεβάτι να πλαγιάσω κι αυτή στα στήθια την καρδιά την έχει σιδερένια.
Καημένε, δεν ξυπάζομαι, μήτε περήφανη είμαι, μήτε σαστίζω. Μον καλά πως ήσουν σε θυμούμε, το φιάκι με μακρόκουπο σαν άφηνες καράβι. Μον έλαβα για ευρύκλια και απ' τα ψηλό παλάτι στρώσε όξο το κρεβάτι του που το φτιασε μονάχος. Και όταν στρώσεις έπειτα, πάρε και ρίξα πάνω στρώμα, ανδρομίδα και προβιά και κεντητός εντώνει.
Γυναίκα, αυτός ο λόγος μου πλήγωσε τα σπλάχνα. Ποιος πήγε το κρεβάτι μου να το παραμερίσει? Δύσκολα αυτό θα το έκανε και ο πιο τρανός τεχνίτης, εξών κι αν ήθελε ο Θεός ο ίδιος να κατέβει και σ' άλλο μέρος εύκολα θα το μετακουνούσε. Όμως κανείς θνητός στη γη, κι ας ήταν νιός λεβέντης, δεν θα το σάλευε εύκολα, γιατί έχει ένα σημάδι τρανό, δικό μου τέχνασμα το σκαλιστό κρεβάτι. Φιντάνι ελιάς, στενόφιλης φύτρωνε στην αυλή μου, χλωρόφλουδο ολοφούντοτο, χοντρό όπως ένα στήλος, κι ολόγυρά του έφτιασα μια κάμαρη χτισμένη με μάρμαρα πελεκητά και με σκεπή από πάνω και βάλα πόρτες ταιριαστές και ομορφοκαμωμένες. Έκοψα της πυκνόφιλης ελιάς τη φούντα τότες και τον κορμό κλαδεύοντας τον μπελετικό απ' τη ρίζα και έφτιασα τα κλινόποδα τρυπώντας με τρυπάνι. Και εκεί τότε άρχισα να φτιάχνω το κρεβάτι, πλουμίζοντας το μάλαμα και φίλτιση κι ασίμι. Να τώρα τα σημάδια του σουτάπα. Μήτε ξέρω αν στέκει ακόμα ασάλευτο γυναίκα το κρεβάτι ή πια απ' τη ρίζα αν το κόψε κανείς κι αλλού το πήγε.
Αν είσαι ξένε ο άντρας μου και αν είσαι και ο καλός μου, πες μου σημάδια του κορμιού, σημάδια της αγάπης, σημάδια που τα ξέρουμε μονάχα εμείς οι δύο.
Έχεις ελιά στην πλάτη σου και ελιά στην αμασχάλη κι ανάμεσα στα στήθια σου τ' άντρο σου φυλαχτάρι.
Είπε, και εκείνοι σκόπηκαν τα πόδια και η καρδιά της, σαν άκουσε τα λάθευτα σημάδια που της είπε, και τρέξε ευθύς απάνω του στα δάκρυα βουτυγμένη, και το λαιμό του αγκάλιαζε με τα λεφτά της χέρια και φύλαε το κεφάλι του, και αγαπημένα του είπε, εσύ είσαι ξένο άντρας μου και εσύ είσαι κι ο καλός μου. Βάγες τρέχα το λες εδώ, αυτός είναι ο καλός μου. Βάγες τρέχα το λες εδώ, αυτός είναι ο καλός μου.
Thank you so very much.
So here you can see either Odysseus and Penelope in front of the golden loom, or the anonymous hero and the anonymous heroine of the Greek folk song.
Yes.
It's the same story, the same plot.
Same story. So,
But
perhaps we have told too many lies. Let us tell one truth.
folk tales are lies that tell the truth.
The hero of the folk tale is every one of us, each person who must travel alone through the adventure of life.
Like the heroes of the folk tales, we encounter enemies, we encounter obstacles, we face trials and hardships. Yet, if our hearts remain true, we always finally find magical helpers who guide us towards a happy ending.
And if the hero of the folk tale lived happily ever after, then may we live even better. Thank you very much.
Say, thank you very much. If you have question, please, you can ask. Oops. We are very happy for. Okay. And it's okay.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
da-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. Okay.
It's actually from a region in nowadays Turkey. It's
Aegean.
from Cappadocia.
Okay.
Yes, the song.
It
So
look-
very close.
We have a lot of common things, yeah?
Of course.
And thank you very much, please, again, and have a nice meal. We can see each other after lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank